Videsh, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me to discuss the importance of continuing professional development.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Videsh, it's been widely recognized that qualifications need to be supported by ongoing skills-based or practical learning. As the National Vice-President of the South African Institute of Building Designers, can you tell me more about the purpose of CPD, what it is and why it matters?
Professional competence is an ongoing process. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's never a static. Once you've completed your academics and static at that point. Even just working is a continuing development. So yes, CPD, a lot of, let me put it this way, a lot of people think that CPD is just to continue being registered because of the SACAP rules that you need so many credits for the year. That is not the intent. The intent is an education. The intent is developing yourself, being able to provide a better service, being able to be more competent at what you do. So that's the importance.
Okay. And the built industry of today isn't standing still. Change is occurring faster than ever. And nowadays, when hiring someone, strong CPD credentials attract attention. How can professionals get started with CPD? And more importantly, what do they need to consider when choosing a training provider?
What is to be, sorry, I just wanted your question. How to get started? How to get started is relatively simple. Just your work. Okay, there's three types of categories, or should I say, three categories of CPD. If you look at just the legislation, the simplest or easiest one is you work, and the hours that you work can be claimed against CPD. The next one is category 3. Your self-study, attending forum meetings from VAs, attending meetings at SACAP, for example. Those are relatively easy and free. More importantly, the educational comment or content is what we call category 1. Those are well-structured educational CPD or workshops, for example, with a structured learning outcome. Those are not necessarily free. I'll talk about the free ones just now. And there's a reason why I'm talking about this, you'll see just now. But a lot of people complain that they're too expensive, hard to come by, etc. And they don't know where to start. So SACAP has a calendar. The service providers upload or ask SACAP to upload these events. All you have to do is register. If from a SAIBD point of view, if you're on our mailing list, you will get a notification of events to come. Or invites to these meetings. So I think the best way to answer the first question is how to start is look at SACAP's website. Even if you haven't attended a CPD meeting, that's one way of getting onto a mailing list of one of the service providers. Is a voluntary association, SAIBD, for example, I just request to be put on their mailing list to be notified when CPD is becoming available. From a costing point of view, There are free CPDs. We can get into that a little bit later. But it's actually, for the bare minimum required, it's actually not that expensive. They are free. Ones, real good educational ones that are provided, for example, by SAIBD. I host a few of those, especially with the expo. If people attend the expo, you will get free accreditation. So it's, from a costing point of view, no, it's not that expensive. Talking about cost, yes, there are some providers that the pricing seems too expensive. But if you are interested in the topic and you think the presenter is good, I advise everyone to actually attend and make up their own minds. And attend a variety. Don't just go to one and think, oh, they charge so much and all CPDs are similar and a waste of time. I would encourage at least try all before making up your mind. Thanks.
Okay. And as we experience a global pandemic, we find ourselves confined to our homes, and professionals are concerned about the change in the learning experience. How would you compare and rate live interaction and training to virtual CPD courses?
Okay. So my personal opinion here, as someone who attends CPD and someone who provides CPD, online has advantages, but I would say more disadvantages. The one few advantages are that I could provide for people in the outlying areas. I mean, the most famous venues in South Africa for CPD is Durban, Johannesburg, Cape Town. If you in the far northern province or Western Cape up on the Atlantic Ocean side, further north, Port Nolloth, for example, it's almost impossible for you to do live CPD because very few providers go to these outlying areas, or the Eastern Cape, for example. While SAIBD does do one or two events throughout the year in these areas, the online CPD, one advantage is that the attendees, the potential attendees from these areas can attend live CPD. Like I mentioned earlier, the learning experience on a virtual platform for me is not the best. The provider needs to, maybe I should start with the delegates first. The delegate needs to understand not just the verbal communication, the body language, it's the same, the other way around. The provider needs to understand the body language and let's just say sitting in a classroom is much better than doing a virtual. So yes, while there are a few advantages, there's, let's just say my preference is the live, real conferences. Having said that, SAIBD is also now going on to virtual platforms, but once lockdown is more relaxed, we will look at both. Actually, there's 3 or 4 different venues we're looking at, or not venues, but different parts of providing CPD, and virtual will be one of them. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you. And finally, the African Construction Expo, as you know, will take place in June 2021. With the need for skills to be tailored to the demand of the economy, how will professionals benefit from attending the events free to attend accredited workshops next year, especially such as those offered by SAIBD?
Thanks, Kelly. So CPD in general is always educational. Even if you consider a topic you might consider yourself a hey, that's my forte. I don't really need to learn anything else. But just the engagement with others always teaches you something. A good example is most or providers should be very competent in the topic they decide to provide. I mean, you're not going to get a doctor to teach you mechanics, right? Or a mechanic to teach you something in the medical field. So having said that, for example, and just from my own experience as a provider, I generally choose topics that I'm competent in, or are my forte in what I do every day. So remember, my everyday work is architecture, and not just an educator in terms of CPD. The surprising thing, or the point I'm trying to make, is every time I present a CPD, I learn something from the delegates that attend. So while I might consider, or I'm considered a competent person on that topic, I'm still learning every day from the people I engage in at these events. The expo, so I'm coming back to the expo, that then gives you a chance for that engagement from a very varied audience. As a delegate, you, over and above just looking at products that are advertised, the educational matter over the whole event. So from the stands, from the new materials, from the new methods, eco-friendly methods, and then in the engagement that happens at these stands, at the CPD. So it's not just you listening to the presenter, but there's always a chance to engage with from owners to developers to other professionals, and that is amazing. And you really learn a lot on that. I want to reaffirm the first question, or reaffirm a point from the first question about the importance of CPD. Many people do not understand the value of collaboration and engagement. And it's the CPD and events like the Expo that allow for these engagements and nurtures collaboration within, I would call it the built environment. I'm not just talking architecture here. I'm the whole built environment. The collaboration is unbelievably high on these kind of events. Thanks.
Okay, well, Videsh, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I think it's encouraging to hear that professionals can continue to gain their CPD points and continue learning. And we're looking forward to hosting you and our audience at the African Construction Expo in June 2021. So thank you so much, and I hope that you continue to take care.
Thank you, Kelly. And I hope you have a good afternoon also, and the audience watching this. Yes, I hope you all are safe and be strong.